Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Art Side of Life, where it's all about how you can turn your creative passion into a profession. My name is Eva and my guest today is a watercolor and digital illustrator from Bavaria, Germany. Using mostly pastel color palette, her characters always feel airy and dreamy. You can find a lot of her creations on her Etsy shop page. She has a fastly growing fan base on Instagram where she's sharing her painting, ideas and creating custom artworks for her followers. If you want to learn more about her art process and creations, she shares her speed paint processes, videos and other tips on YouTube too. So please welcome Isabel Weber, better known as Kassiopeeia, and let's get to the interview. So welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super happy to have Isabel here. Hi!
Hi Eva, how are you?
Hi, good, and super happy to have you here, and you took time to inspire others and share your art story. And let's start with your background right away, some stories from your childhood and how you got to art.
Yeah. The thing is, I always did art. I started as a kid, and that's why I think the questions like, when did you start, is kind of weird, because I feel like everyone is drawing as a kid. And I used art as a coping method too, because I lost my brother really early in my life, and I just needed it. So I was like drawing all the time, thinking of stories, making them up or whatever, and I just needed it. And later then, I went to art school and I loved it at the beginning, but it got really, really hard. Like I had stupid teachers or whatever, so I kind of stopped doing it. I started photography, and just after some years I started again. Actually, like 2 years ago I started again, and which is funny because it was a really, really, really big part of my life when I was young. Yeah.
And did you work with watercolors when you were a child already, or it was more like pencils or other creative outlets?
I think whatever I had, like, my parents used to buy me stuff to draw, and I'm pretty sure it was watercolors as well, but I didn't really care back then. It wasn't about doing something really good looking or whatever. It was just for the fun of it, or even if for like the coping method of it, to escape reality or whatever. So yeah, it was whatever I had.
And did you create it more like fantasy world or more like dreamy places where you would rather be?
I loved reading mangas back then. So I had some characters I liked, and I used to think of weird stories they could have or weird adventures they could have. And I have a huge pile of comics I did back then, and they are so embarrassing to look at. It's just crazy.
Maybe you can redo them at some point, like now when you feel like, okay, my art is better, so I can do this, the story what I had before.
I should do that.
And your parents expected you to be an artist, or so it wasn't really big surprise for them?
No, not at all. I grew up in Bavaria, and it's not really a thing to be an artist here or to, for example, do something for a living that's creative. Not at all. It's something you can do at home or as a hobby or whatever, but you should do something that helps people or whatever. So that's why I stopped drawing, I think, because actually my very first dream job was illustrator for children's books. Mm-hmm. But I just stopped doing it because I felt like that's nothing I should do, or it's nothing I can make money out of or whatever. So not really, no. But not because they wouldn't like me to be one. It's more like a common thing here in Bavaria. Yeah.
So what kept you motivated, or like keep going to pursue art and deciding to do it professionally, even though you didn't have a support maybe from the closest circle?
I just needed to. I really like doing it, and a need, because when I didn't do it, I had really rough times. When I started it again, I just realized how much I would need it. Yeah. So Instagram, for example, was one thing that made me realize that you can make money out of art, or you can do it on a daily basis. And that was something that actually inspired me to go further that way. But yeah, it's important if you want to do that, or if you want to do art on a daily basis, that you think of sharing it, because then you get more options out of it, not just your parents or whoever who could, I don't know, maybe have not the right view of it, you know?
And when you mentioned also the social media, right, either like Instagram or like making friends online, have you had something like a sketch group in your area, or was it purely on social networks when you were connecting with people about art?
Not really, which is really sad. It's hard to find people around who like do art or whatever. I would love to have a group to like sketch in cafes or something. When I was at art school, of course, we all did art, but it was a really classic way. So everyone was like teach to sketch or scribble or shade in a specific way. And that's something so different to whatever Instagram is doing or the community is doing there. So no, that's what Instagram made really good for me. Or yeah. Because you can always start your own sketch group, or like kind of like urban sketching. And it's easier to find people. Even maybe in the area.
Because you can, I saw it on meetup.com, you know, you have like a lot of these meetups in different towns, and they are all over Europe, so you can start your own meetup in your area if nothing like that exists.
Yeah, right, that's a good idea.
And so what do you think was maybe like the best advice when you were like either growing up or just like pursuing your art career? Maybe it came also from social media or from one of your teachers or something like that.
I am also a grief counselor, so I had this actually short training to be one, and we had one teacher who also is an art therapist. And we used to do that too. So we could draw on our own, and she was like doing whatever she would do with patients. And for me, the most inspiring thing was not even a phrase she said or whatever. It was just the way she would deal with art, because it's not just about like what I always used to say. It's not just about making something that others would please when they look at it. It's more about having a good connection to your soul or whatever. That's what she did. What she actually did. She was like, just draw whatever you want, use whatever you want, and we just look what comes out of it after that. And it was really relieving. After all the years, where you're like, oh my God, I have to find a certain style or whatever. And that's a big part of what motivates me.
Yeah, because then it's more about enjoying the process or just using the paints or colors and so spending time with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have you kind of experienced also like the worst advice someone gave you, or you see that the young artists or young people are receiving right now?
I think there's so much actually, but the worst is when you have kids who draw and you tell them whatever they do is wrong, or whatever they have to do better. That's like the worst thing you can do to them, because the very early years when you begin to draw, they're like so fragile or whatever. And when a grown-up comes and says, no, that's not right or whatever, it can like stop them from creating. It's like in school too, when you have a teacher who always tell you what is wrong or whatever, it's not really motivating. So I think it's important to first of all motivate, and then you can come with all the criticism or whatever.
So more like start with just enjoying, and then keep yourself motivated, and then afterwards you can focus on improving what you need to. And how would you maybe define your art, or what is the vision always in your art? As you already mentioned, that like a good feeling or just enjoying the process. Is there something else as well where everyone can find in your artworks?
It's like a two-way thing. One is when I don't feel really good or I use it as a coping method. You can really see that in my art, actually. But it is also really like bright and pinkish and girlish. So it's like a mixture of both worlds. And that's what people tell me too. And that's what I see in it too. I think it's two things. It's like something I need to get out of my system. And sometimes I just try to do something others like too. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And what would you suggest maybe people when they are not motivated or where they have these down days, what to draw maybe at that time, or so not to focus on improvement, or what are maybe the methods you are using for, like motivation?
Like art blocks and something?
Yeah.
Usually the best thing is really to take a break or to take a step back, or, for example, just using another medium like photography or whatever. It is also a thing of how I look at things or what a view I have, and it changes. And that's like the best thing you can do for your brain. It's like doing something completely out of your comfort zone or whatever, and to try different things or to look at different things or go out in the nature and just do something else what you wouldn't do usually. Because in creativity, it's all like going back to the same point, and you can use it usually.
So how does it look like for you, like every day or work day, or something like, how many days a week you can go taking pictures outside or taking breaks, or just take us through your normal day? How many hours do you draw, or everything?
I need a lot of tea. I get up and I make tea. That's the first thing I actually do. When I draw, I try to think of stuff I could upload to. When it comes to Instagram, there are times I need to upload because I want certain people to see it. So I try to organize things I can upload, or I'm just scribbling, I'm just drawing. When it comes to art, I usually always draw. It doesn't matter if I do something else, if I watch a video or something, I just have stuff nearby. And it depends. If I have a project I'm doing, I usually just do that and nothing else. Or if it's like a more digital thing, I try to get the most of the stuff done in the early hours, because later on I'm not really productive anymore.
And what is the most important for you when you're creating your characters or using watercolors? Like maybe you can give some tips for starting artists, what they should watch out for, or like always try to implement in the characters?
When it comes to character design, I think the most important thing is, and we don't really see that, that we get inspired from stuff we saw probably or maybe years ago even. Yeah. It's like when it comes to stories or development, I know that my typically things I draw, my women or whatever, they are always inspired by women I saw probably years ago, or like characters I'm really inspired of. And I think that's like, don't be shy to get inspired by something. Don't be shy to look around for something, and don't think that everything comes out of your mind. It's just not possible, and that's not how our brain works. And I think that's even dangerous. There are artists who are like, no, don't look at stuff that's all out of your system and whatever. And that's just really, really dangerous, I think, because there's like a huge wave of people who think that art is like, that there are boundaries to it, which is just not true.
Yeah. So just experiment and see what you actually like. Yeah.
And I'm not talking about copyright or anything. Don't steal art. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because of course you wouldn't go to one artist and copy exactly the colors, the pose, the everything. So so we can study like old masters or even new artists you admire and see like, oh, maybe I like how they draw hands or eyes or hair, and then you can combine from different sources.
Yeah, or not even art and like drawing art, even movies or whatever, or pictures. A lot of artists use pictures as references for their art.
Yeah, yeah. Or just movies and layouts and poses from the movies. Like if
Yeah,
someone is dancing somewhere and you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's a good
right.
pose.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Perfect. And so maybe you can also give us some ideas or when you started to find new like jobs or commissions, how was it for you to like find new paid projects when you just started your art career?
Um, I think the most important thing is to try to get a base and a community because the people usually find you. It is hard to go around and search for illustration jobs because they usually are not really paid well or they are searching for something really specific. But if you get the chance to like open your community up or what you show on the internet, it is easier to for people to find you and your art, and they usually already see what you do because they know your portfolio. It's not like they are coming up, okay, there are people doing that, but usually it's not like they come up to you and say, can you draw me a tank or whatever, because they obviously see usually I don't draw tanks, for example. But that really depends on the job because there are artist jobs where you can try to get another style done or whatever, and it's still like a craft you do. Mm-hmm. So it's okay to develop it or do something else. But the jobs you can get over Instagram, for example, when it's like character design or anything, it's usually something you would do anyway. So yeah, it is important to have that community to get people know you. That's like the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And so what you learned over the years about the community building and like getting more followers for Instagram or other platforms, if you can share some tips, maybe what to do and maybe what not to do as well.
Yeah. Be nice. Like the first thing. Try to not be too selfish about it. It is clear that you have that community because of the follower you have. So the best thing I know, and it's like the most fun thing too, is to communicate with them, whatever, if it's features or shoutouts or if it's just a normal message or whatever. Be with them and try to create the channel with them. And I think that's also the best way to make it bigger or let it grow. Yeah. So I don't know. Of course, it's hard if you're a really small account in the beginning. It's not like you can do a feature or whatever, or someone would be interested in it. But it is important that you're nice and that you have to, I don't know, that you are with them and not just for your own there.
Yeah, yeah. So just maybe also give tips and tutorials even, or something what might people enjoy at the beginning, and later on you can do like giveaways or something like that.
Yeah. Just ask them what they want.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's a good thing. So what was maybe the thing you did recently, if you can share, like maybe either the giveaways or other kind of challenges or something, what you do with your community?
People love giveaways when it comes to art supplies, what I totally can understand, because it's not just the art you get or receive, it's actually something you can do with it. You can do something with it. The last thing I did was a feature. And that's a good thing because, of course, everyone there, if it's someone from the art community, wants to get known by someone. So if you have the chance to like give them how would you say that? The chance to get noticed or invite others to look at their stuff. It is always a cool thing to do. And I really like doing that because I really like finding some new people too. So I love it to see features on other channels too.
Oh, perfect.
I think it's my favorite one when I think about it. I don't like giveaways that much because the feature thing has a more communication or communicative thing about it than the giveaway. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's my favorite thing.
Oh, nice. Do you also have maybe favorite characters you create or favorite colors you always work with? You already mentioned pink. Do you have like specific brand you like?
When it comes to traditional, I really love the Dr. P.H. Martins because they're so vibrant. And it's hard to get that vibrant look just out of the usual watercolors, I think. So that would be my favorite one to use right now. Yeah. But I'm not really picky when it comes to art supplies. I love to use everything I have, even if it's not really expensive or whatever.
But it's really good. So what do you have maybe also from the non-expensive ones, if you kind of use or combine different shades or different papers even?
I still have that really cheap gouache brand called Reefs. I used to use them really early in my Instagram time, and I still have them and I still use them. I don't know. I feel like they're never out of colors or whatever. I still have them. It's crazy. When it comes to paper, I like to use hot pressed watercolor paper, and I like it when the surface isn't too scratchy or whatever. So yeah, but I'm not really picky.
Oh, cool. So do you use mainly white paper, I guess, so you don't experiment with gray or brown or other papers?
No, not at all. I really should sometime. Not really.
Oh, perfect. And so now if you can maybe mention also for our audience or listeners, if like what are maybe your income sources, or how do you combine your income sources, or what do you live from, or what are maybe usually the paid projects you work on?
I tried to open up my Patreon. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on a Twitch channel because I really love to stream. It's not just streaming the art. I also love to stream gaming or whatever. So I'm working on that. Commissions mostly when it comes to that, when it comes to art. And that's like, I don't know, it's important to look what's the right pricing or whatever, or to have the clients who would be open to actually pay that. So yeah, that's mostly what I have as an income when it comes to art.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about the inspiration yet so much as what is your main inspiration daily, like is it going outside and as you mentioned, taking pictures, or reading maybe some books or movies, games?
Yeah, it is mostly games and books, actually. I read a lot. Lately, not that much, unfortunately. But I'm playing a lot of point-and-click games or whatever, or survival games. And I really love the graphics most of the time, or if it's pixel art for whatever reason. I really love that. And inspiration comes from everywhere, really. It could be a conversation or whatever. I can't really trace it back most of the time. I couldn't say, okay, that's what I was looking at. That's the fun thing about the brain. It's like super, it is super, like it's crazy actually to think of how the brain works when it comes to inspiration. So most of the time I can't really trace it back where it comes from.
But do you write it down maybe from like conversations you like, or games like, oh, okay, this is maybe what I would like to implement later?
No, I'm just trying to memorize it. Because if I would write it down, it's like the next step after hearing something I would like and then actually draw it is that my brain is doing whatever with it and my memory is doing whatever with it. And that's the next step, and that's the cool step about it. And that's the step where I get actually inspired from. So it is like, it's not the original thought or whatever, it is what my brain makes out of it until it comes down, actually. Yeah.
Cool. And you mentioned some books that you read a lot. Can you share some books which you love and maybe why?
I love everything Haruki Murakami writes. I love my most loved and forever loved author is Ian McEwan. I just really like it when books are not just bright, funny stories or whatever. I like it when it's something I can think of, something I maybe see myself in, or if it's a dark story, when it's just like when there are characters and I can think like, okay, I'm not just the craziest person on this planet, it's fine. There are people who have maybe similar or even worse things they have to go through in life.
And then you can implement it later in art as well, or it's more for your main motivation?
Oh, I'm sure I'm implementing it. Especially if it's dark art. I don't really share the dark stuff usually, if I'm honest. There's a lot of stuff I think maybe the audience don't really want to see, so.
Yeah. And so now when you're mentioning like building community and your audience, like, is there something you wish you knew before you started your art career?
Yeah, I think it's like when it comes to art and that it is more important to have something like a door to your creativity. I think what would help me is that it's a lot less stressful than I would expected it to be, because in the end of the day, we're all artists here. We all do it for the fun too. And that's what makes it so special and so beautiful, actually, is that it's something that is fun and that is beautiful to us, and not just something we would make just to make money. So it is a lot less stressful than I thought it would be. That would have helped me a lot to think of, I think.
Oh, nice. So you are like still like setting up the goal, but then you are not so frustrated when it's going slowly, for example.
Yeah, that's really important, because if you start getting frustrated about something, it makes it so much harder to do it in the future, or to start things again, or to just even think of art. That's, I think, really, really dangerous when it comes to art blocks, to be frustrated about something like that.
Yeah. Or maybe even like start some, like projects or series, so you have something, like continue or...
Yeah.
Is there something now you're working on as a, like either the series or something you want to do in the near future, something exciting you want to share?
Oh, I am still excited about my comic project. I really want to do. I have it in my mind for years now, and I really have to start writing it down. So it's not really much progress to see, or it's not really in the making right now, but I really, really want to do it. It's like a little sci-fi story I'm working on in the future, hopefully. So yeah, that would be one thing.
And do you want to do it through Kickstarter? And do you already have the idea of like the full story, or you just need to illustrate it and keep like putting details to the story, or what stage it is now?
I have a lot of snippets of the stories, like the beginning and the end and whatever, but the most important thing, like whatever comes between it, I have to write down and I have to figure out. And that's like, I don't know, Kickstarter would be a perfect thing actually, but not in the near future. So there's a lot to do still.
Oh, nice.
Developing characters and whatever, yeah.
So how many characters do you want to have? Or you don't know yet?
I have some, like 5 or whatever, who I really have a good picture of. And it is... The main thing about that story is actually that the main character is going to meet other characters who are actually... No, I can't spoil it. I can't spoil it. Whatever.
And do you want to do it traditionally or digitally, or you don't know that part yet?
I started it traditionally, but it's too expensive. I'm going to make it digitally, I think. I hope to give it like a traditional touch or whatever in graphics or the look. But it is just too expensive for me to do it traditional.
Yeah, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, I hope so.
And
we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to see that. And if someone would like to do something what you do now, maybe what would you advise them to start with, or then maybe what you work with now? Or you mentioned already some of the paints and papers, or maybe you can mention also some of the brushes you love now, like this is like one I cannot live without.
God, I'm so bad with stuff like that, because I'm that kind of person who would cut a brush just to make it smaller. No, I'm really like the crafty kind of person. If I can touch it, or if I can like maybe change it myself, it's perfect for me. I think if someone starts doing things yeah, it's not really important to have something expensive at home. It's better if you like try whatever you can with whatever you have in the beginning, and then see what suits you or what you need after that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to digital art, I mean, I'm the person who bought a tablet before I was really using digital art because I thought, okay, maybe that's a motivating thing, and it was, but it's not how it usually and always works. So I don't know. Don't spend too much money on whatever you could buy when you don't even know what you actually want to do. That's like my personal
That's
view of it.
good point. Just to try and see what you like, and then later on you can invest in either the digital or whatever it is.
Yeah, and the best thing about Instagram too is that you most of the time you see what the artists are using, so you can see, okay, I would like to try that because it looks cool to me or it could suit me. So yeah, there are sources you can look at.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and get a good scanner. My scanner is my baby. If you do traditional art, get a good scanner.
So what do you have? What scanner?
It's an Epson scanner.
Do you know the number?
Epson Perfection V370 photo. It's for photos actually, but that's why the color's so good.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you can actually print like bigger pictures as well. So if you want to sell your artworks, then you can prepare it on that one and then send it off.
And if you want to open up a store or a shop online, it is like you have to have it if you want to sell traditional art.
Yeah. Super nice. Yeah. There's something which kind of helps you as well. And do you have other things maybe they helped you along the way, like to learn, or some art books?
I don't really read art books when I think about it. No, I don't think so. Not really.
Okay. Not everyone reads art books.
Yeah, maybe anatomy books, but I couldn't think of the brand or whatever. But when I try to do a pose, I usually look it up online. Mm-hmm. It's funny that I'm such a reader or book type, but I don't really look at art books.
Because you spend time on the other books.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Obvious. And then let's talk about the future. And I would like to know as well, what would be your dream scenario in like 5 to 10 years? And what would you like to be doing? And you have everything how you want.
Okay, I have a really big wish, like a view of myself in the future is that I would live in a cabin in the woods. I would have all the art supplies around. I would have jobs or whatever going on, but I guess I would like to spend a more lonely life because I'm not really the kind of not really the type who's like living in huge cities or whatever. And I really like to be in the nature. So that would be like the perfect thing if I could still work on stuff and be creative or whatever, but would be surrounded by trees or whatever. That would be like perfect.
Nice. And have some comic books already published maybe as well.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
And would you have some animals there also around in the cabin or outside feeding deers?
I oh my God, stop it. Yeah. That would be crazy cool.
That might be cool. Actually, imagine when you have the cabin and then you have these racks for hay, around, so the deers would come all the time.
And you always would have the scent of hay around. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. And well, what about like super far future? And that would be my last question. And about like 100 years or more, if you're not a robot maybe, or what would you like to be remembered for?
When it comes to the work as a grief concealer and the art itself, I mean, the most important thing to me always was to help people. It sounds weird, or it sounds silly, but it's like if you can help them finding their creativity or whatever, and even if it's just one person you inspired, that's like crazy good for me. So I don't know if would people remember me for getting people inspired. That would be crazy perfect. I don't know. Yeah.
Definitely. And maybe you can share for people who don't know what is grief concealer, what you actually do, or maybe some tips would help people.
At the moment, I don't really work as one, but what I did was I had a support group going on. It's like people who would meet each other, like in the movies, how you wouldn't expect that to be. If you are grieving actually, or you have a problem to grieve because society is mean to you, or your parents or whatever can't really understand you, then search for people who can. Search for people who have the same problem or even a similar or whatever, because having all the bad stuff in your system is like the worst thing you can go around with, being on your own or being alone with it. Same thing with art too. It's like the good things come when you share it also, or can be a good thing. So yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so you can always find someone with the similar problem or similar view to the world, and then you can discuss things.
Yeah, and you don't feel so alone with it anymore, because you usually are not alone or not the only person experiencing stuff like that.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. And before maybe we say goodbye, maybe you can share a last piece of advice or key takeaway, and then we will slowly finish.
Yeah. If you want to make art, or if you already do it, maybe try to stop thinking about what could others think of. Even if it comes to sharing art, I know it's important and I look at it too, but the more important thing is that you enjoy doing it, because that's like, in the end of the day, that's why we do it.
Definitely. I totally agree.
Cool.
So let's keep sharing stuff and inspiring each other. So super nice. And thank you so much for being here and sharing. My pleasure, definitely. And thanks everyone for joining, and see you in the next episode. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know in comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos, because I post new interview every single workday. You can also find the resources mentioned in this episode at art.X. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a little freebie waiting for you, so go check it out. If you want to listen to the interviews on the go, make sure to check out the podcast episodes at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and don't forget to inspire each other. I will see you guys in the next episode.